We're going to be talking about everything, touching down on everything we got in prison, specifically Florida State Prison. I want to give a voice to those that don't have a voice, you know what I mean? Everybody that's still locked down, that's not able to present the situations that they're currently going through. And we're going to enjoy life after EOS. That's what it's all about. So if you like the video, definitely like it. If you want to rock with me, definitely hit that subscribe button.
1090 Jake has had a crazy rise to fame, being known as the man to call out and verify snitching allegations throughout hip-hop, a genre full of people who try their hardest to put on the tough guy persona. You might ask yourself, what gives this white boy from Massachusetts the right to speak on the real street drama that surrounds hip-hop? Well, his life wasn't an easy one, and although he's white, he's faced many similar challenges to those that many rappers rap about. In this video, I'm gonna break down the rise to fame of one of the most controversial figures in hip-hop today. Born August 29th, 1994 in Malden, Massachusetts, Jacob Cherry, better known as 1090 Jake, moved around a lot, as he was always raised in two separate households, due to the fact that his parents were separated.
I grew up all over the place. You know, my parents, they separated before I was born.
Right.
So I grew up really, it was two different households, and I can't say it was like a bad home, but it was hostile at times because whichever parent I'm with is talking about the other one. So it's a lot of situations, like if I'm getting dropped off in the weekend at this house, I gotta go get the child support check, and you know, they're not even trying to see each other. So it was kind of a hostile environment. It wasn't a bad home as far as like poverty and all that, but it wasn't a happy home either.
Both of Jake's parents played a huge role in his life, especially his dad, who he always looked at as a gangster, eventually finding out that he was a drug dealer.
Yeah, were your parents sort of in the streets or outside like that at all?
I never knew anything about any of that until I grew up. So like my mother, nah, not at all. And my mother, when I was real young, I'd be going and living with my aunt. So I lived with her a lot. That's who I ended up moving in with when I went down to Florida. I lived with her because my mom was just doing her thing. She was still young. She was young when she had me. And my father, I always had a gangster impression of him. So I'm Italian and Irish. So the whole family big on like all the mob shit, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm always looking at him like, oh, he must be in something, he must be in something, because just the way he moved, he's got a friend on every block we go to, people always pulling up. I'm just thinking he got a lot of friends when I'm little. Years down the line, I found out he was selling drugs the whole time. So I had no idea about none of that.
His upbringing wasn't an easy one, as Jake literally didn't even have a bed until he was about 8 years old.
Like I didn't have a bed, bro, until I was like 8 years old. I always was on couches, futons, floors, shit like that.
In school, he was a class clown, which led to him getting suspended a bunch. So at the age of 13, he moved to Florida.
I moved down to Florida when I was 13.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so it's a totally different environment, or?
Yeah, I moved down to Florida within like 2 months. I had my first gun down there.
Really?
Yeah, it was easy.
And you hadn't been thinking about getting a gun when you were in Mass?
Fuck no, but I came down here and everybody got everything. It's a whole nother world, it's a different culture. And
this is where things became even worse, because in high school, he was under investigation for selling drugs.
As far as getting in trouble, nah, I got suspended a shitload of times. It really got worse, like middle school, high school.
Right.
High school, freshman year, they had me under investigation for selling ecstasy, guns in the school.
Jake has spoken about his mindset during this time, sharing his feelings of anger towards his parents, which led him to rebel against authority.
When I moved down there, I was angry because, you know, there was a lot of shit with my parents, abuse and shit, that I really don't get into because I'm not really on good terms with them right now, even to this day. But by the time I moved down there, I was an insecure, angry 13-year-old kid that wanted to hurt people to feel better about me. You know what I mean? And I kind of like lashed out. And when I first moved, I moved in with my grandmother, who couldn't control me.
Although he was already claiming the Bloods in Massachusetts, he officially became affiliated when he moved to Tampa. In this clip, you can hear him explain how it was to be put onto his set.
Tampa's a blood city. We got other shit, but Tampa, you know, it's blood. That's what it is. It's a red city.
Right.
So I got around the homies and shit. I've already been claiming this shit anyways, and I wasn't even officially, you know what I mean? And then I got put on.
Right. How was that?
I mean, it is what it is. You gotta go through it.
Yeah, but there's levels to that shit. Would you say it was a 10 or was it a light one?
Nah, mine was wild. I'm white, so it's different. A lot of people like, oh, ain't no white bloods, ain't no this, ain't no that. There really ain't.
He would also get his first face tattooed during this time, which he claimed to have done so that he could go all in as a rapper.
Okay, and the face tat on your cheek, what does that signify?
It means dreams, to keep your dreams in sight.
Okay. But once you get a face tat, you're now crossing over a line that is hard to come back from.
Well, my dumb ass, when I got this shit, I wanted to be a rapper. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make sure I can't get a job so I can only be a rapper.
You did it on purpose.
Yeah, and then I quickly realized that shit ain't gonna work out.
Yeah, Lil Uzi Vert did the same thing.
Oh, it worked out for him.
It worked out for him.
Yeah.
But, you know, but there's also the guy that works at the Jack in the Box near my house who's got a big face tat that it didn't work out for him. So, you know.
Crazy enough, I have a similar story to this, because when I went to get my first tattoo, I actually asked for a heart under my eye. Luckily, the artist said no, because I know I would have regretted it. Anyways, let's get back to the story. During this time, 1090 Jake would find himself in a bunch of wild situations, which even ended up costing him his freedom. You see, when he was about 18 years old, he met a guy through his aunt, and this guy had a bunch of guns. Being a criminal-minded individual at the time, Jake decided it would be a good idea to hit his house and rob him for everything he had.
I knew somebody through my aunt who wanted to be like a role model at that time in my life. And he owned a crazy amount of guns. Even took me to the gun range before. This was before I was a convicted felon. I decided that I'm gonna hit his house. Just on some grimy shit, and we did. So we ended up going in there, grabbing what we grabbed.
1 week later, Jake got caught with one of the guns and eventually received over 16 charges related to this incident. He was even facing life in prison at the time.
And what ended up happening was, like, maybe a week or 2 weeks later, I get caught with the gun in the same neighborhood I got caught with the other one. So they grabbed me with the gun. They tried to say when I got picked up that we were breaking into a car. That was like the excuse to search us, but we never did. So I got arrested on burglary of a conveyance and carrying a concealed firearm. I go to jail, and then it's like however much time passes, investigators come to see me. So I get a call out, they take me out. I'm thinking I'm gonna see the nurses or whatever, or my lawyer, because it's all in the same area in Hillsborough County. So when I go in the room, it's two detectives. They're like, all right, we wanna find out what happened with your uncle. I'm like, what uncle? I don't have an uncle down here. We wanna find out what happened with this situation. You can either help us or tell us to fuck off. I told them to fuck off, the interview ends. The next day, I got hit with like 16 new charges.
Eventually, Jake was able to secure himself a plea deal and spent the next 3 years in prison, which wasn't easy. In this clip, you can hear 1090 Jake explain how his friend turned on him and called him out to a fight on the yard.
So we slide out onto the rec yard, and Solo's in the corner. He got his Velcro shoes. I got slippers, like slides. We don't get shoes. So this man got shoes and everything ready. Shirt off, everything. He's in the corner, ready to go. So he tells me to tighten up. So I catch the wall, and I mean, bro, you know when you fight and you like this here, you see the other guy and you're ready to, you know, first punch, out of nowhere, I see this gray thing fly up. It's the goddamn Velcro shoe. Boom, kicks me in my head. I guess he knew some MMA type Muay Thai. I don't know what it was, but a foot came up, bam, two hands, bam, bam. I'm just like, what the hell is this?
This ended up being a TOH, or a test of heart.
He looks at me and more or less, he asked me a blood question. You know, I'm not gonna put it all out on YouTube and everything, but he asked me something and I answered it. He asked me again, I answered it louder. He asked me again, I answered it louder. He did the same thing with my boy and looked at everybody outside in the rec yard. He's like, these my brothers. Any of y'all got a problem, we all going in on you. So everybody out here understand that. And I mean, that was my first TOH. So in Florida State Prison specifically, if anybody Googles this, a TOH is a test of heart.
While speaking on his time in prison, he stated that he felt he needed to act as if he had a life sentence because there were people around him who really did.
This is gladiator school, you know what I mean? So when you get to, you know, we're on the bus and they're telling me about all this, you're gonna get TOH, you're gonna da-da-da-da-da. I'm just telling myself in my head, you know, I feel like I'm gonna throw up the whole damn bus ride, hearing all this. I feel sick in my stomach, but I'm just telling myself I'm not gonna let no one, you know, abuse me. I'm not gonna let nobody rob me. I'm just not going for it. I gotta do my time, but from before I even got to prison, I understood that I need to move as if I have a life sentence because there's people around me that do. And I need to have the same mentality as them if I'm gonna be amongst them, even though I got 3 years.
While locked up, he actually got his GED. And when he got out, he worked a job at Dunkin' Donuts, which he secured by lying on his job application.
But as far as like trying to find a job and shit, I quickly realized there's no point telling the truth. It doesn't do anything for you. You know, I try to be honest with people, like, yeah, I fucked up, I did this, I did that. They would see the tattoos and then they would hear what the charges are and they were like, nah, we're good.
Okay.
So I ended up getting my first job at fucking Dunkin' Donuts and I got fired on my day off.
At the age of 22, Jake would find himself back in jail. And in this next clip, you can hear him speak on the incident, as well as his frustration of trying to find a good job, which led him back to the only way he knew how to make money.
They said I was chasing somebody with a gun. Trying to take their shit, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. This is what happened, right? Is I fucking had a girlfriend, couldn't afford anything, couldn't do anything. And I got real tired of not being able to find a job, going places. I was really trying. I was really making an attempt to try. I went and got glasses so I look friendlier, all type of shit. I got these fucking Ray-Bans thinking this is gonna work. Nobody wanted to hire me, so I was like, all right, fuck it. The prison mentality kind of came back. I'm seeing people with chains. I'm seeing people with this and that. And I was like, I bet you I can take that shit. And you know what I mean? So I started doing what I was doing. And there was a situation where somebody was over where I was at. Jewelry, whole Gucci outfit, all this shit. So I tried to get all that shit. He ended up pulling out fucking like mace or pepper spray.
At this point, Jake already had gun-related charges on his record. Lucky for him, a bunch of inconsistencies led to him getting off with 2.5 years of probation. At this point, Jake was barely scraping by, selling drugs to make money while also working at a pizzeria that was only paying him $6.50 an hour.
What are you doing for money up to then?
I mean, I was trying to sell shit, and then I ended up walking them to a pizza place right up the street from my house. Had pills in my pocket and everything when I did the interview. They hired me. So I was working, I think, for $6.50 under the table, $6.50 an hour. I was getting fucked, but it was a job. And they told me that they're willing to, you know, sign off on the little probation shit. So I'm like, fuck it. So I work at this place for a little bit. I get cool with the manager, and he's even giving me rides to probation because there's certain days I gotta check in. So I'm checking in, he's bringing me back, I'm working, I'm not really making shit, but it is what it is. And then we got into one argument and I quit.
After this, he got a job at a smoke shop, which was actually going really good until he started selling cartridges to the customers.
I ended up getting another job at a smoke shop. So this was like the best job I ever had. I had dunks, pizza, smoke shop. In here at the time in Massachusetts, recreational was legal and gifting was legal. So we used to have cartridges inside of the store. If you came in and you bought a vape pen for $40, we'd give you a free cartridge. So my dumb ass, I started bringing my own cartridges. We didn't have anything in the system because I broke the sales record. Like I was in there killing it. They loved me as a fucking employee. And then everyone, because we were, I don't know if you're familiar with South Boston, we're right next to the projects where Whitey grew up at. Whitey Bulger.
Yeah.
So we're by those projects and then we're by the other projects. So I got everybody coming in here. They're mad chill, asking me about the tattoos and shit. I'm telling them the stories. They're like, yo, you should get on a podcast. Everybody was telling me I should do Joe Rogan. That's what they were saying. I was like, yeah, that ain't gonna happen. But that's where I started telling all these stories that I eventually put on YouTube. And I ended up getting fired because I pretty much, like, the sales dropped after I took all the customers because I was selling all the cartridges.
In 2019, 1090 Jake started his channel, End of Sentence, which he wanted to use to give a voice to the voiceless, with the name End of Sentence literally being a nod to enjoying your life after your jail sentence is complete.
Hey, this is gonna be another prison channel. This is EOS. If you don't know what EOS is, that's your end of sentence. We're gonna be talking about everything, touching down on everything we got in prison, specifically Florida State Prison. I want to give a voice to those that don't have a voice, you know what I mean? Everybody that's still locked down, that's not able to present the situations that they're currently going through. And we're going to enjoy life after EOS. That's what it's all about. So if you like the video, definitely like it. If you want to rock with me, definitely hit that subscribe button.
On this channel, he would share stories from his time in prison, and this was starting to gain a ton of attention. From this point forward, Jake would work religiously, spending day in and day out cultivating his fan base, while also trying to ramp up the quality of his videos. While he was growing his channel, people started to question the authenticity of his claims, which led to him looking into his own paperwork.
At what point did that transition to finding paperwork and footage and everything?
Well, the funny thing is, the first paperwork that I ever did or looked into was my own.
Okay.
And it was because people were questioning the authenticity behind what I was talking about. So I broke down my case, why I got arrested. I did like a year in confinement, and there were people like, oh, you didn't do a year in confinement, you didn't. So I actually reached out to the prison and was able to get copies of all of my disciplinary reports, fighting, assault on inmate, possession of weapons, and it shows how many days in confinement that I actually did. So I was doing that just to more so validate my own stories.
This would become 1090 Jake's first taste at researching paperwork, a skill set that would change his life forever. In an attempt to expand, knowing that his stories would eventually run out, Jake would begin to cover random crimes, until he realized that he would get way more views if he covered rapper crimes.
When I got tired of doing the prison shit, because eventually my stories are gonna run out, I was bringing on people, doing interviews with people I was in prison with, beefing with, cool with. I saw that the genre was dying because so many people were doing the same thing. So I was like, what else can I get into? Let me start covering criminal cases. It would just be random crime. You know what I mean? Guy kills his family, and I go and Google the paperwork and cover that. And then eventually there was one video I did out of Palm Beach with these two teens that come to find out were rappers, and their most viewed song on YouTube had like 6,000 views. So they're not really known for shit, but I put rapper in the title on YouTube and the video went crazy. So that was like the light bulb in my head. What if I start looking into actual rappers' criminal cases?
The first rapper he exposed for snitching was SpotemGottem, and this video did extremely well, sitting at almost 1 million views at the time of recording. It also greatly impacted SpotemGottem's career, as it was built on the facade of being a street dude, and now the jig was up. Another rapper who was impacted by Jake's journalistic research was Boston Richey, who at the time was supposed to be the next big rapper, even getting a huge cosign from Future.
Real Boston Richey.
Yeah, I got him on my shirt right here. Yeah, fuck your favorite rapper.
Well, that's Boston Richey in the interrogation room?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And at the time, Boston Richey was getting hot. He was on tour with Future.
Not only did Jake have paperwork while exposing Boston Richey, but he also had interrogation footage, which further solidified Boston Richey as a snitch. And although it did affect his career, I think it's pretty safe to say that Boston Richey bounced back, as he's still been getting millions of views on almost every video he drops. As for 1090 Jake, he's continued to expose rappers, only growing his channel more and more every day. And as of today, he sits at over 1 million subscribers, a feat that less than 1% of YouTubers ever accomplish. Pretty good for a broke kid from Massachusetts. As for the rappers he was covering, the consensus is 50-50, because while many people find what he's doing as commendable, others, especially the ones he's exposing, are upset. Either way, 1090 Jake is winning. From a journalistic standpoint, his peers love him because 1090 Jake checks all the boxes, and he only speaks on things once the paperwork comes out, which helps him hold a high standard with his work. And there you have it. 1090 Jake's story is a true testament of what you can overcome. From dropping out of high school and going to prison, 1090 Jake was still able to find his way in this world and make a very sustainable career for himself while doing it, which is inspiring to me, because I too dropped out of high school, which is not a flex at all, and is something I often hide from people. Despite that, I have the utmost belief in myself to make it in this YouTube game. So if you enjoyed this video, give it a big thumbs up, and maybe even check out another one of my videos. In case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Peace.
Because the second that white boy gets under that water, them dudes get in there and they start gunning and doing all type of shit. And there was one kid that he was on the toilet, he was shitting, and dude came in there with a knife and said, turn around, don't even wipe. And this kid, you know, he didn't want to do it, so the guy made him do something else. He started to refuse that, and dude ended up stabbing the shit out of him. So it's like, it's fucked up in there. It's a different world.